There's something that I realized about you through a couple of things that I found. One of them has to do with speed, the importance of speed. So for example, I know that you resigned from your nonprofit. You told the board you were leaving in August, and by November, you had already built the first solid core studio. Then I also remember a post you did on social media that was showing like just this wall that had all the different openings for solid core studios. And you were explaining how you optimize it in a way where you do this permit, but at the same time you're doing this and that. Like, it sounds to me like timing and speed is something that's important to you, and that has worked out really well.
Yeah, it's worked out very well. And I've kind of been that way with everything in my life. Like, even when I met my husband, I think I told Brett I loved him like the second weekend. Like, I just sort of know. I just sort of know. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but like, I definitely move quickly. And so I think that serves on, and you're not going to find any entrepreneur who's really, really made it that doesn't make quick decisions. And that doesn't mean we're reckless. It just means that we are trusting our decisions. And we have felt like, once I saw the first solid core of how well that was working, I felt very confident that like, okay, this can go another neighborhood. This isn't an anomaly that these particular people just happen to like solid core. People were driving all over, to come to it. So that tells me there's a market here. Same thing with Back on My Feet. Like, there's runners in every city, right? There are also people who are living in homeless shelters in every city. So it felt I can open a lot of these and scale them fast. So then it was Alberto figuring out, well, what are the roadblocks, right? Why do other people not open these things quicker? Why are they opening one or two? One, it's mindset, right? A lot of people have right? So that's a very risk-averse attitude. And I think it creates doubt. And when you're not putting energy into the flywheel to say, okay, I want to open 2, 3, 4, because you can't hire if you're only going to open another 1 or 2. It's hard to get the math right with the people. But if I'm going to hire for a team and say, we're going to open 5 this year and then next year 10, they all have things to do and the payroll makes sense because we're, creating more revenue through the studios.
Okay, of course, if you may need a VP of marketing, a VP of operations, or a director of this and that. And as small as you're going to try to stay, you need these people to grow. But if in your plans it's only 2 studios a year, it's like, well, I mean, these people are not justified.
Exactly. And people do that. And then they get stuck in this weird spot where they have 3 studios. They're like, oh my God, it's so much work, but they can't afford to hire somebody because they don't have the next studio opened yet. It's almost more challenging when you're growing slower. That's kind of how I felt. But if I had the team and the talented team to be able to take on more and more, and it's a balance, right? You sort of don't know when to hire, but if you're hiring, you need to grow. And then it was like the real estate. Okay, like how do we open these stores faster? What's getting in the way? It's the permits, it's the timeline, it's the lease time, right? So how do we figure out a formula that's going to cut all of these things down in half? So we would do little things like, before we would sign a lease, we would ask the other side, is everybody on your team available? Is anybody going on vacation? Like, no kidding, because we would find ourselves, I remember the second location I signed, it's like, oh, our lawyer's gone for 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks? Like, so we're not going to move anything forward for 2 weeks. So we just sort of learned through little trial and error on how to compress the timeline to get a studio.
So if you heard of a lawyer on the other side for the lease that was going to be away, or that, somebody is not around, or somebody it's going to take a month for approval, you could even just not even sign that lease because it was not fast enough for you.
Or we would come up with like, you need somebody else to do it. Okay. And then we would say, listen, we're not going to do back and forth. We want you to get in our room with our lawyer. Or we would send over, in the letter of intent phase, here's our main points. We would put the meat and potatoes, what usually kills a lease, right? Because people want to kick the can down the road. Okay. And then you hear these deals die at the 11th hour, and you've put all this time and energy, and now you don't even have a studio that's going to open. So we would be really upfront about the big things, the rent, the tenant improvement dollars, the escalations, the guarantee, things that kill leases from the very, very beginning. If we couldn't agree on that, we just moved on to the next. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we would be like, we have 2 weeks to get the lease done. That means your lawyer and our lawyer are going to get on the phone today, right? And go through this instead of just like, oh, we'll send it to you and then you take a week and then we take a week. There's just so much wasted time in things. And really, Solid Core really set the standard, I think, where we were opening 25 to 30 locations, our 5th year in, because we had built such a great flywheel. And you don't need to go slow if you figure out the processes, the systems that need to be there in order for you to get the speed you want.